We store our data in the database tables, and to get that data we use select statements. So whenever we need to access data in the database through an application, we must also use the select statement. So beside the select statement, we need some additional statements also, so that we may get the data and formalize it properly. So in this code we are going to select some data from the database. First we need to connect the database, so we will use the code for connection as we have started this in previous slide. One thing is additional here in this MySQL I'm giving one additional parameter, that is database name. Rest is similar, so it will either connect or will give error that the connection failed. After that we will type the select statement which will give us some result, and that would be actually the displaying of contents of the table stored in the database. So here I am using 3 attributes. You can type any kind of select statement here. So here suppose we have 3 attributes, attribute 1, 2 and 3, and the name of table is table name here. And after that we will use result to get all the rows. Actually result is required. It specifies a result set identifier returned by MySQL query. Here we are using object oriented connection, so for this purpose we must use this type, and if we are using procedural, then we must type MySQL underscore query, and this SQL will be executed with this query, and the result rows will be given to this result array. After that we must check whether there is something in the result. So if there are more than 0 rows, means there are some records, so then this while loop will be executed, and if this query return nothing, then the rows would be 0 and we will get 0 results. Inside while loop we will get all the rows one by one, and here we will fetch the associative array. Fetch associative array, this is a function which fetches a result row as an associative array. Now here we have to display the contents, so I am giving a word, let's say ATT1. It can be anything according to the attribute name and according to our needs, and then the content of row 1 attribute 1 according to this attribute, and then again we will give something to display. It can be the name of second attribute, and here this attribute 2 would be the second attribute in row according to this attribute 2 in our SQL query, and similarly attribute 3 is here and it can be selected from the row, and all these are performed with the help of while loop. This BR is used to give a space, a new line to each row. Once we display all, after that we must also close the connection. We have a database here. Its name is student. It has some tables. It has a table basic info. We can check the contents of basic info here. So these are the rows in basic info. Now with the help of PHP we will display these contents there in a web page. So for that purpose we must type a code in Dreamweaver or any other tool. You can use Notepad++, NetBeans, etc. I am using Dreamweaver. So here we have the code. First we need to create a connection. So for that purpose we need some variables. the server name, it is localhost, the username is root in our case, and this is the password which we are using, and the database name is student. You can look it here, its name is student, and the table which we will use is basic info. Inside basic info we have three attributes: registration, name, and father name. So here once the connection is established, after that we will use select query, and that will be stored in the SQL variable. So I'm giving a select query, select static from basic info. Now since we have three attributes, we can also type here static, or we can specify these three attributes: name, registration, and father name. These are three attributes in basic info. So what will happen, all the contents of basic info will be selected with the help of this select statement. Now after that we will execute this SQL with the help of this command, and all the results will be stored in the result. Actually this would be a form of associative array, and for each record there will be a row. Then we will check whether there is at least a single result. For that purpose we must use num rows greater than 0. Suppose there is no result, it is possible that the table is empty, or we have given this table name wrong. So in that case it would be 0. So for that situation we have this else case, and it will give us 0 results. Now as we know that the query is correct, and inside basic info we have some records, so definitely we will have some rows. So we will use while loop, and this while loop will give us the values of these three attributes, as we have mentioned these three attributes: row registration, row name, and row father name, along with some other words. Like for registration I will use registration, for name we have here name, and for f name we have father name. So this while loop will execute until we finish all the rows, and after that the database connection will be closed. So if we look at the result, we will get it like this: registration. For each iteration there is registration, name, and father name. So for each value of each attribute we have these three words. Now this is the first attribute's value, then Amin Ali and Tariq. Similarly we have all these results from the table. Now we can arrange these values according to our requirements. We can also put these values in a tabular form. So for that purpose we need a table. Like here I'm going to insert a table. Since there are three values, so I need 3 columns and 2 rows. These are enough. So this table will actually give us a table having 3 columns and 2 rows. We can check it here. We will have this type of table. So what will we do? In the first row we will give this registration number, name, and father name, and this second row will be kept in the while loop, so it will be repeated, and for each iteration a new row will be automatically created. Now here I used the table inside the PHP script. So what I did, before displaying the results which were here inside the while loop, I displayed the first column of table after executing this query. So with the help of this echo we can display the first row of the table. So here we have 3 columns: registration, name, and father, and a single row. We can check it here. So this thing is displayed here first, and after that, inside the while loop, I used the same code, but I added the tags of table. So here inside while, the row is started and these three columns are added, and inside each column the values from this result are extracted, and once the single iteration is completed, the row has been closed. So in this way, we can create multiple rows of the table with the help of while. Once all the rows are completed, after that the table has been closed with these two tags, and after that the connection is closed. So we will get the result like this. Here we have a single row, and after that we have multiple rows. Actually these rows came with the help of while loop, and in each iteration we got these three values from the database, and actually these values were stored in the result, so we got these values from the result array. We can also give a better shape to this table by changing its size and also changing its border size, and also make this registration name and father name as bold. So actually what will happen, we will get all these three bold, and there will be no border, and the size will be a bit bigger. So in this way the presentation of record will be much better. So what we did, we made these three as bold, we removed the border of table, and also we increased the size of this table. For insertion of data in the database table, we use the same procedure as we did in the selection of data. However, we have some minor differences. The first one is that the SQL query must be insert query. Like here we have insert into table name and some attributes and their values. After that, if you remember, in case of select, we used a while loop here to scan all the rows in the result, and here to check the status of this query, we apply this if statement. The query function with the connection object, or actually this is in the case of object-oriented connection, and if we have procedural connection, then we will use MySQL I_query function. These functions are used to perform a query against a database. So any type of query must be executed through this query with the connection or MySQL I query. For successful select, show, describe or explain queries, it will return a MySQL I result object. For other successful queries, it will return true, and in case if there is failure, then it will return false. So here actually we will check the successfulness of this query, whether it is executed or not. So if it is successfully executed, then this condition must be true. So if this is true, then we can say that the record has been successfully added to the database. So we will get this message, and in case we get false due to any kind of reason, most probably due to error in this query, so in that case we will get error and the type of error along with the query. So after that we must close the connection. Now we will check this in our code. So here we used the insert statement for basic info, this is the table name in our database. Our database is student, and it has three attributes: reg, name, and fname, and these are the values for these three attributes. So this SQL will be executed with the help of this query, and with the help of this f, we will get whether this has been executed or not. If it is executed, then it will have true, and we will get this new record has been added successfully. Otherwise, we will get the error message for this else. Note one thing, actually I'm working in Dreamweaver, and it must be a bit different during code, because now I'm checking the result here inside the Dreamweaver. So for that purpose, I am closing this connection inside the f. Otherwise, we need to close this connection at the bottom. So inside f, I close this connection because this statement might be executed several times to avoid the execution of a statement. So we need this statement to be executed once, because if you are going to execute this statement again, then you will get error, because this primary key value will be repeated. So in that case, we will get error. So for that purpose, I'm using this connection close inside if and also inside else. So once we execute this code, we will get the record has been added successfully. Now you can check this record in the MySQL workbench. Here, wait a minute, let's save it first. Now, yes, actually this is repeated now, so I'm going to check CS0987 in our database here. CS0987, so this one is present here in the database. Note one thing about insertion, that when we insert data into the database, we usually use forms, and with the help of these forms we get the data from user and then insert that data into the database. So we need at least 2 pages. In first page, we display the forms with a submit button. Once the button has been submitted, then the control is directed to another page where we apply this code, and there for values we use some variables, and that variables actually come from that forms text data. Next thing is deletion of data from the database. We use the same procedure as we used for insert. The only difference is the query. For delete, here we will use the delete statement. So if you are going to delete something from a table, you must type delete from table name, and you will give a condition, like here we have attribute 1 is equal to value, and rest of the things are same. So we can change that code of insert into delete. So here if I type delete from basic info, and no need to type the attributes. Here we need where reg equals this record, and this statement will delete a record having reg equals to CS0987. We can also change this message. The record has been deleted successfully. So save it, and now check it here. The record has been deleted successfully. Now if you go back to the workbench, you will not find that record. it's not present. In today's lecture, we studied about the database connectivity. Actually, we took a MySQL database and then connected it with the PHP code and accessed the contents of this database in our web page. We also performed some other operations on the database with the help of PHP code. The main thing in this tutorial was the usage of database in a web page, and for this purpose we created the database connection object, and this was actually the fundamental thing, and we created this object in the beginning of PHP code. Once this object was created, after that we were able to execute the SQL statements, and according to the SQL statements result we processed the results. So we learned about the usage of select statement, insert and delete in the PHP. With the help of select we got the result, the rows from a database table, and then we displayed that data in a web page. With the help of insert we added a new row into the database table, and with the help of delete query we deleted a record from the database. I hope you will do practice all these and do some work in the web pages using PHP code and do some modifications also. So for now, thank you. Allah Hafiz.